2. You know, some people might argue that going into space is jumping the shark.
Could be worse. Toriyama could result to time travel.
Or open up a multiverse.
What if they made an evil Goku?
Or if they kept revealing new gods to replace the old ones?
Or started giving characters transformations instead of actual character growth.
So this saga is a wild ride, y'all. Hot off the heels of the Saiyan saga, where the entire series was frankly flipped on its side, half the cast is f***ing dead or in a hospital. And with God pulling a Nietzsche, there are no Dragon Balls to bring him back. So Bulma, Krillin, and Gohan have to Star Trek to Namek, Piccolo's newly revealed homeworld, and their only hope. But when they arrive, they'll find more than peaceful Namekians. They'll find a terror beyond hell.
The moment our intrepid Earthlings arrive on Namek, everything that could go wrong essentially does. Followed not only by Vegeta, but a far more imposing threat in the sadistic Frieza, these opening chapters are a scramble for everyone involved. And before you know it, there are more moving parts than Dragon Ball had ever had to deal with before. Yet none of it feels difficult to keep track of. And instead it just builds a sense of anxiety and excitement as characters change locations, come into conflict, steal Dragon Balls, and either bluff their way out of confrontations, or blast their way out of them.
One of the most unique aspects of this arc is how little Goku factors into its first half. While Dragon Ball would be no stranger to sidelining Goku until he was absolutely necessary, he'd be largely out of play for the first 36 chapters of this 88-chapter saga, giving Krillin, Gohan, and Vegeta a lot of focus early on. This makes for a fascinating dynamic because without Goku there, several of these characters would have to play the world's most dangerous game of cat and mouse mixed with Don't Wake Daddy. And in this case, Daddy be Frieza.
And Frieza as a villain is one of the best Toriyama's ever written, if not the best. And his introduction is top f***ing notch. His interrogation and subsequent slaughter of the Namekian village communicates everything you need to know about him. He radiates sadism, underlining his aggressively condescending politeness to great effect. You come to positively despise this motherfucker, but you also can't look away when he's at his absolute worst, like Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards.
That's a bingo!
The subservience of Dodoria and Zarbon does a lot to communicate his strength, as does the way that every character familiar with Frieza speaks about him. He is not a king to be served, he is a god to be feared.
This arc also ties Frieza directly to Goku and the rest of the Saiyans' history. He wasn't only their absolute ruler, he was the one who eliminated their planet, leaving only a handful of them alive. His genocide of Goku and Vegeta's race ties him directly to their fates, and though this is most definitely a retcon on Toriyama's part, it does a lot to elevate the narrative of this conflict, while also making it personal. And though Goku may not value his Saiyan heritage, he will inherit the responsibility of avenging all of that death and destruction that Frieza wrought.
Frieza isn't the only villain of the arc that stands out though. Zarbon and Dodoria proved to be formidable minions, and the Ginyu Force helped shake the arc up in an amazing way. Their bombastic personalities are combined with radical violence, all the while homaging Super Sentai of the time. They all provide interesting techniques and spectacular battles and put our heroes on the brink of death more than once. But above all else, the minions provide conflict and development for one particular character, Vegeta.
To say that Vegeta is the star of the first half of the arc is an understatement.
I honestly believe it's the best he'd ever been written in the entire original manga.
Although Krillin, Gohan, and to a lesser extent Bulma are our protagonists in this first half, it's Veggie who really gets to shine, as he takes both an active and reactive role throughout. Thanks to Frieza's inability to read power levels and his scouters being destroyed, Vegeta is able to sneak around and operate in the shadows, all the while slaughtering the guilty and innocent alike in order to collect the Dragon Balls. And though he's still undeniably a villain here, his contrast and conflict with Frieza make him seem almost like an anti-hero in comparison. Almost.
This was far from Toriyama's first time pitting a previous arc's big bad up against its current. But unlike with Piccolo and Tenshinhan, Vegeta is still rotten to the core, meaning every action he takes against Frieza is also against our heroes. And when Krillin and Gohan are put in between the rock and a hard place of having to choose Vegeta over Frieza, they have every reason to feel conflicted.
Of course, not long before Goku arrives, Vegeta's part in the story essentially mimics Piccolo's. He must join forces with Earth's heroes in order to stop Frieza from attaining victory. But where Piccolo would make an heroic sacrifice, Vegeta would get everything he had coming to him.
That all you got?
But you have to give it to Toriyama. Even though he'd shown Vegeta to be an unrepentant murderer, you still feel the slightest bit of sympathy as Frieza brutally dismantles his proud confidence with a pervasively vicious glee.
Speaking of Piccolo, Toriyama cleverly brings him back to life in order to set up a brilliant gambit. With him alive, Kami and Popo are able to bring the Earth Dragon Balls together in order to ultimately save the day. We also get to see Piccolo return to his homeworld, discover a prototype of what would become Fusion later down the road, and help keep everyone alive long enough for Goku to do the thing!
Regarding Goku, he's, well, a bit of a tough topic. Much of the major conflict on Namek happens with him either on his way to the planet itself or out of commission in the healing tank. He doesn't really feel like a vital part of the narrative for a majority of the saga. Once he arrives, he provides us with some impressive examples of just how much he's grown. And while we're absolutely thrilled to see him here to save the day, he still feels a little out of place at first.
But as Vegeta lay dying, we see him bestow the burden of defeating Frieza upon Goku. This elite, shattered and fading, must entrust this lower-class warrior to finish what he could not. And Goku solemnly accepts. He may not value his own Saiyan heritage, but he recognizes both Vegeta as a warrior and Frieza as a tyrant. And with all the pain and suffering he's already caused his friends and family, he's made it his personal mission to put Frieza down. After getting to know Vegeta over the course of the last two sagas and knowing what this means to him, this scene hits hard.
What follows next is the longest fight in the franchise, both famously and infamously.
There's a desperation that slowly mounts as Goku realizes just how utterly outmatched he truly is. His strongest attack hits Frieza head-on and it does little but singe his hand, so he's forced to use the Spirit Bomb. And unlike the one on Earth, this sucker's massive. And while it doesn't quite get the job done, the sight of such a huge version of the attack has stuck with audiences for years. It's really freaking cool.
And it all leads up to one of the most spectacular moments in Dragon Ball.
Hey guys, look! It's my Jutsu impression! Babaitia!
Goku turning Super Saiyan. We've mentioned it in other countdowns, but it bears repeating. This changed Dragon Ball. This scene of anger, desperation, and horror created something new, dazzling, and game-changing that would inspire countless other properties for decades to follow.
Super Saiyan Son Goku is iconic. From the build-up to the climax to Goku's destruction of Frieza, we see a legend fulfilled. It feels as if Goku's whole life has led up to this one point. Following this transformation, we get what feels like an exercise in catharsis as Frieza is demolished. And Frieza's desperate gamble of blowing up the planet leading to a harrowing countdown to destruction makes for a fantastic set piece. At the end though, it's Frieza's hubris that seals his defeat, and we watch as Goku is possibly lost, along with the vanishing world.
But
The moment Frieza enters the fray, the pacing of the story slows to an absolute crawl.
and it's only made worse in the anime. Every joke, every meme you've heard about Dragon Ball's bad pacing, that's exemplified here.
Goku's fight with Frieza does have some impeccably well-crafted shots though, with stellar composition. And there's still plenty of creativity throughout.
Also, while Goku embracing his Saiyan heritage is conceptually interesting, he'd already established that he considered himself an Earthling before anything else, and his connection to this extinct race are tenuous at best. So to see him say, "I am the Super Saiyan Son Goku," rings the slightest bit hollow. Furthermore, this arc introduces an issue that would plague Dragon Ball for years to come: power creep.
Power levels in Dragon Ball have always been a source of consternation. While their introductions serve the plot of the Saiyan saga to help communicate the divide in strength between characters, these numbers would balloon to proportions that would soon hurt the narrative far more than help it. And some characters are used to questionable effect.
Bulma does not need to be in this story at all. Toriyama wanted to call back to the classic hunt for the Dragon Balls by including Krillin and Gohan, Goku's son, but this story ultimately ended up sidelining her in a really bad way. Funny enough, I think this is one of the reasons a lot of OG dub fans didn't like her. They were introduced to her at her worst. Luckily, the following sagas utilized her much more effectively. And hey, it's after she has a kid, so it's kind of like the inverse of Videl, Chi-Chi, and Android 18.
And Frieza's use of transformations here is the worst iteration of this trope. It's too convenient, and thus makes prior conflicts feel less meaningful. But this saga managed to make it this high on the list. How? Because despite its shortcomings, this arc manages to accomplish some amazing feats.
Taking us to another world introducing us to one of the most marvelous villains in the franchise, utilizing Vegeta to perfection with a stellar, exciting first half, and giving us an amazing transformation that Goku is put through hell to unlock in its second, all facilitating one of the most climactic showdowns in anime history on a dying planet.
Though it makes its fair share of mistakes along the way, this arc attempts to do a lot. And there's something to be said about a story and a storyteller that tries something new and epic. We can accept that it's got its flaws, but we all remember being glued to our seats and our manga volumes thrilled at what was coming next. It honestly can't be emphasized enough just how grandiose this part of the story feels and the gravitas that comes with it. We do criticize the ballooning power levels, but it still feels insane when Frieza reveals where his base form sits, and those transformations continue to ratchet up the fear and despair for our characters. This saga is ambitious, climactic, and a total thrill ride, and has stuck with fans for years after.
I'll also highly recommend that if you're looking to rewatch this arc, try out Kai, especially if you're going to watch it in English. It cuts down a lot of the pacing issues with the original anime, while also making some fixes from the manga. Also, Christopher Ayers' Frieza is untouchable in English, providing a performance that is a standout of the franchise. Love and laughter always, man.
Love and laughter always.
Love and laughter always.